What is up, YouTube? This is your boy, the original Renaissance man, Devon DaVinci. And right now we're going to do a continuation to the video we did yesterday, and that is the top 13 scariest video game creepypastas. Now, if you want to catch my reaction to the number 13 through 9, then go back to that video and check it out. Today we're going to be watching 8 to 4. And if you guys want to see the entire video without any type of stopping or talking or anything like that, make sure you check out the original video and the link in the description box down below. Let's go ahead and jump right into it because this is going to be 15 minutes of creepypasta action. Whoops. My bad.
Fallout 3 Number Station. Here's a fun fact. I fucking love Fallout 3. It has an interesting story together with an expansive and open world that begs for exploring. It has interesting characters, stories, and locations to go with it.
Yeah, it's a very fun game.
But of course, with a game as legendary, and sometimes horrifying as this one, there's bound to be something creepy embedded in the game, right? Well, that's the case with the Fallout 3 Number Stations. Some players know that you're able to murder the radio host of Galaxy News Radio, 3Dog, and that after he's been killed, he will be replaced by an uninspired technician named Margaret. Once 3Dog is killed, you're forever stuck with Margaret on the radio. What a lot of people don't know, though, is that under rare circumstances, Galaxy News Radio will become a number station. Many number stations exist in real life, and some believe that they are nuclear retaliation control networks. No one knows exactly what steps to take to hear the number stations in Fallout 3. You must kill 3Dog, and you have to skip the quest Galaxy News Radio, and you have to destroy Raven Rock. This is the trigger that turns Galaxy News Radio into a number station. If you're lucky, after you've destroyed Raven Rock, you will receive the message, radio signal lost, followed by radio signal found. In order to hear the broadcasts, you will also have to position yourself in specific areas, although none guarantee that you'll actually hear it. When you turn on the radio, you'll hear 3Dog, despite the fact that you've killed him. He seems bored, or rather depressed, and reads a series of numbers in a monotone voice. He'll never use a multi-digit number like 11 or 40. These numbers are followed by varying lengths of Morse code. This is then followed by the song I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire, as all other music tracks seem to be inactive on the station. After a closer inspection, the numbers were revealed to be dates, predicting such happenings as the death of Gary Coleman and the BP explosion in the Gulf. These are some of the supposed messages that the number station broadcasted. The Queen has died today. The world mourns, as on days like these, we are all Brits. 4/2, March 19th, 2014. Have you watched my YouTube video yet? I uploaded myself kicking bums in the nuts. 24/16, December 24th,
That's funny.
2012. I can't believe Britney's actually won an Oscar. 21:33, February 27th, 2023. I can't believe they've actually done it. Not long left. They were warned, but they just had to keep pushing the boundaries of science. The noise. I can't take the noise anymore. And the light. Dear God. The universe is slowly unraveling around us. I'm not going to wait for death. I have a pistol in the attic.
I'm guessing that probably has something to do
with
with
the only message where a date cannot
the Hadron Collider supposedly making a black hole or something, maybe. That's what it seems like to me.
Polybius. Polybius was a supposed arcade game released in the early 80s. The game itself is shrouded in mystery and is considered very obscure. The game itself was your typical space shooter, but many people reportedly suffered illnesses, epileptic seizures, nightmares, and in rare cases, suicides because of the game. The game would stay in arcades for a short while strange men in black suits were observing the players. The game would then be removed, with all traces of its existence removed. This has caused a lot of speculation circulating the game, and some believe it to be a government experiment to examine the effects of imagery on everyday people.
James Rolfe did a real good
and
video.
this wouldn't be the first time the
Polybius.
government has experimented on normal innocent people. For example, the MKUltra project was an actual experiment conducted by the US government, where they took random people off the streets and conducted various experiments on them. So something like Polybius wouldn't be impossible. You know, this kind of reminds me of something.
Yeah. I've never actually seen Doctor Who, like any of them. A lot of people talk about it
JVK
though.
1166Z.esp. JVK 1166Z.esp was a rather unusual mod for The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. At first, it seemed to be just a virus. It corrupted your save files and often caused the game to crash. After the author learns more about the game, through the help of another forum user, he manages to get the mod running through DOSBox. When playing the game, the author notices that all main quest NPCs are dead, and the player character's health is continuously dropping, slowly but surely. When the player eventually dies, a character known as the Assassin could be seen crawling all over the player's dead body on all fours inhumanly, like a spider. He could also occasionally be seen darting around a corner or crawling on walls and ceilings. At night, at random intervals, NPCs would go outside for a few minutes and say nothing but "watch the sky" before returning to their normal behavior. As the story progresses, the author and his forum friend finds out more and more about the assassin and about a strange door in the game that is always locked and that, if they wait long enough, it might just open. In the end, the forum friend tells the author that he's done, as the assassin was getting more persistent and how the game kept turning incredibly dark, and how NPCs would run at random intervals like they were running from something, while the assassin could be heard screeching before attacking the player character. The user tells the author that he's done, that he's given up on the mod, and that he is also becoming paranoid because of it. The author jokingly replies that he should get some real sleep, and 2 mornings later, the author received the last email he was ever going to receive by the forum user.
You ain't gonna tell us what it said?
I just got up from a fucked up dream. I think. The assassin, he shrieked at me, and when I opened my eyes, he was right there, crouching over me. His arms and legs were longer, more like a spider's. I tried to push him away, but when I touched him, my hands just went inside, and I couldn't get him loose again, like he was made of tar or something. Then, I woke up. I thought he was gone, but when I looked at the monitor, I wasn't where I was. I was in the Corpusarium, with Yagrum. For once, the light was okay, and I could see him all bloated on those mechanical spider legs. I sat down at the computer, and he started talking to me. Not in a box, but really talking to me, in Tiara's voice. He knew things about me. He told me things that I never told anyone, some things I totally forgot about. He told me that almost nobody had made it this far, and that the door would open up soon. I just had to hang on a little while longer. He said I'd know when it was time. He said I might be the first one to see what was inside. And then I woke up for real. But I was at the computer. I still wasn't where I was. I'm swimming out to the Citadel Island. All I can hear is this tapping. It's on my window. It's over on the left, so I'm sending you this, because I left my laptop by my bed, to the right. Just a little tap, 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 like he's knocking his finger against the glass. I might still be dreaming now.
It's nice that the assassin let you write that long-ass email. I'd have got bored. I'd have put his ass on red. I'd have marked it as red already. Like, yeah, motherfucker, I ain't about to read all this shit.
Misfortune.gb. Misfortune.gb was a supposed Game Boy game that could be found on certain cartridges of popular games, such as Link's Awakening, Pokemon Red, Spud's Adventure, Poochie Karat, and Atelier Marie. The few people who have experienced it consider it to be one of the scariest video games ever made. In the game, the player would control a young boy in a strange gothic building. The player is soon confronted by an evil being, assumed to be the devil himself. The being would
That's
say,
an adorable devil.
I exist within the very fabric of reality. Do you want to challenge me? The player is then transported to a series of maze-like rooms. The objective is to progress through each room by finding stairs to other levels, or by solving puzzles. This included answering riddles and or choosing the correct pathways. The cabin puzzle, which shows 4 possible paths, is the most famous one, as a text box would appear, stating, "Choose wrong, and misfortune will befall your loved ones. Are you ready to play?" Choosing wrong would result in the screen fading to black, and a typical game over screen would appear, with a more detailed version of the being, along with the words, "I am God here." Allegedly, the game over screen caused many players to feel depression or dread, and apparently, some died or went missing. Some wrote the whole thing off as just a joke, yet some believed that viewing the image of the evil character really could cause the player to experience misfortune as the game's antagonist promised.
He probably should have warned us that before he showed the damn picture. I don't get why all these creepypastas talk about God, like, I am God. Is that supposed to be scary?
Mario is a Super Mario World ROM hack that was first found on the SMW Central. The author of the story, Adam, was browsing through the hack section for Super Mario World when he came across a hack simply titled Mario in capital letters. The description of the hack seemed to have been translated directly from some other language, as it said. The description of the hack seemed to have been translated directly from some other language, as it said, "As you play the role of Super Mario Plumber, verify that you are beautiful. Purin ses utu zutu uru." Again, Bowser kidnapped the evil king. It is your job to save her. This hack includes 6 levels of very long.
That would make it a queen then.
The hack folder included 2 files, an IPS file and a simple TXT file. The TXT file contained nothing but random indistinguishable symbols, except for one repeated phrase, "Find me." While playing through the peculiar hack, all enemies were missing, and touching most text boxes would result in strange messages being displayed, most notably during a cinematic in the game. Adam begins to speculate on the ROM and what it could actually mean. After some time, he comes to the conclusion that Mario himself was atoning for his actions, and being plummeted into a hell that looked just like Yoshi's Island, where he was lost to the grip of death forever. After further research by other forum users, one of them got the brilliant idea to try and convert the TXT file into an image file, as it was revealed to be a JPEG image. When converted, the forum user was presented with what has been widely considered to be victim number 1.
Looks like that, the mummy from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Return the slab.
As there literally exists hundreds of Pokemon creepypastas, it's very hard to put all of them in a top 13 list. Therefore, I've decided to just include one of them, which is one of the most known ones, and in my opinion, the scariest. Honorable mentions go to Pokemon Creepy Black, Lost Silver, Glitchy Red, and Strangled Red.
I've only heard
Without further ado, the number 3 spot goes to the Lavender Town Syndrome. Sure, it may be a cliche choice, but in my opinion, it is the scariest. When Pokemon Red and Green were released in Japan in 1996, there was apparently a peak in suicides and illnesses of children between the ages of 7 to 12. Rumor has it that these suicides and illnesses only occurred after the children playing the game reached Lavender Town. Allegedly, the first versions of the song in Japan had extremely high frequencies and binaural beats that caused young children to experience headaches, nosebleeds, sickness, and in extreme cases, according to the story, suicides.
Makes me want
When
to
a
play
video
the original Pokemon
was
games.
released on YouTube that showed what happens when you put the song in a special software, the software would create images of the unknown near the end of the audio, followed by one of the most sickening noises I have ever heard. This raised controversy, as the unknown would not appear until Generation 2 of Pokemon. Often accompanied with this story are also the stories of the allegedly removed Lavender Town content, such as the White Hand, the Buried Alive model, and the Ghost animation. The White Hand was an enemy that was said to appear in the Pokemon Tower, which was a white, decaying hand that had 2 attacks, Fist and Brutal. Several frames of these attacks are missing, but they apparently also caused children.
I guess I'm just
to feel
immature.
sick.
That was funny.
The Buried Alive model was a boss that was going to appear instead of the Marowak in the final game. The enemy would be what appeared to be a decaying human body that was crawling out of the ground that would utter the sentences, "You're here. I'm trapped, and I'm lonely, so very lonely. Won't you join me?" The battle would then initiate. If the player would win, the game would freeze. If the player lost, Buried Alive would utter out, "Finally, fresh meat," followed by
That was
gibberish.
White Hand.
It would then cut to a typical game over screen, along with a graphic image of Buried Alive devouring the player character, along with a creepy song playing in the background, known as staticmesh.wav. The cartridge was then to download the image to the internal memory, and whenever the Game Boy would turn on, the typical Game Boy title screen would be replaced with the image of Buried Alive along with Static Mesh playing. The ghost animation was an animation that was going to appear in the Pokemon Tower at numerous occasions. It was described as several frames of static, several frames of screaming faces, and of the Grim Reaper. No one knows what these frames mean, and lead programmer Hisashi Sogabe testified as to having no knowledge as to where these images surfaced.
I was more of a Pokemon Yellow man, so I missed the whole curse thing.
NES Godzilla. NES Godzilla tells us of how the author receives a strange copy of Godzilla for, well, the NES. While playing the game, it is very different from how he remembers it from his childhood. Levels were much different, graphics were changed, new characters were introduced left and right, and the entire time, the author is haunted by a terrifying creature known as Red. The story itself is very lengthy, and despite a few scary moments, is actually somewhat tame. Until the final chapters. Now, if you're planning on reading the story after this video, I highly recommend that you start from the beginning. But chapter 7 is where things go completely insane in an intense, terrifying, and explosive climax with an epic showdown between the player and Red. And while, like I said, the story may seem slow or tame at times, it all builds up to the fantastic finale where everything pays off and scares the bejesus out of you.
It says kill.
What really helps the story is also the very impressive sprite work that accompanies the story and makes it all the more believable. In the end, the author comes to terms with what Red is and what it wants to do, and ultimately faces his fears and grows as a person. I'm not going to spoil everything, as the story really builds on the characters and lets them grow, and while it may not be the deepest or most thought-provoking creepypasta out there, it's one of my favorites, and therefore, it deserves the number 2 spot.
Someone needs to make a fan game that's just straight up creepypasta. Like, you know, fuck with your computer,
And
have all kinds of subliminal images, all that stuff.
number 1.
Well, fuck, I'll just continue the video. I was meaning to split it up, but I've already done these other ones. I might as well finish it off. So this will be a 2-part video.
I know, this may be considered cheating, but in my opinion,
Gotta make sure my video
this
is still
story
recording.
really is the scariest video game creepypasta that I have ever read.
Psych, it's gonna be a 3-part video. Ha! Come back for the first part on the next video. That'll be when we will look at the number 1 creepypasta that he has to mention, because it looks like this actually has enough time to stretch out into another video. So I will see you guys on the next video. That's been the original Renaissance man, Devon DaVinci. And if you liked it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share. Deuces!